Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free. 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender, Billy Christopoulos. Billy just finished his third year of professional hockey, playing for the Toledo Walleye in the East Coast Hockey League, as well as getting 3 call-ups to the American Hockey Leagues, Chicago Wolves, Charlotte Checkers, and the Toronto Marlies this season. Billy played his junior hockey days in the United States Hockey League for the Des Moines Buccaneers and the British Columbia Hockey League for the Albany Valley Bulldogs, before playing 4 years of NCAA Division I college hockey for the Air Force Academy prior to turning pro. So this can be a really fun episode, Billy. So welcome to the show, Billy Christopoulos.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, so I'm excited to get on here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a fun time. I've had some of your teammates on, Brett Boeing and Caden Fulcher. So
Oh yeah.
they've told me nothing but good stuff about you. So I'm excited to get you on.
All right, good to hear. Yeah, I know. Those are some characters you got on there earlier, so it's yeah, I'm sure they have some good stories.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But to start things off, like, can you give our viewers a little background information on yourself, like when you started playing hockey, why you started, like what youth hockey was like for you growing up?
Yeah, man. So I honestly couldn't tell you the first time I was on the skates. It was so I don't remember it. I think my parents told me I was like, maybe 2 or 3 years old, just like one of those classic
Yeah.
stick them out there on the pond. I was born in Chicago, so we had a pond in our backyard, and they threw me out there pretty much as soon as I could start moving around. But yeah, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. I got 2 older brothers, so naturally when you get 2 older brothers, you want to do exactly what they do. So they started playing hockey, and I'm like, okay, you know what, that looks fun. I want to do that too. And then again, the classic "why'd you become a goalie" story is the youngest brother, hey, get in the net. We need somebody to shoot on. So you know what, I think my parents tried to fight it for a little bit. They tried to make me play out until I was maybe 7 or 8, and then I was as so finally talked their ear off enough to let me be a full-time goalie.
And, like everyone always has like that story of like with your first time like as like a full-time goalie. Do you have like that story like where like you get a shutout, you get lit up 15-0? Like I've had guys come on like, yeah, I got lit up and like I'm still playing goalie.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember. It was probably like maybe miter score days, and it's just you know looking back now, a lot of goalies say they might wish they play out. Scoring goals is fun, but back then it was just like you want to be on the ice all the time. And that's what the goalie does. And in those days, it's just the crazy games. They're always like 10-9 or something like that. So you're getting a lot of action. You're just out there, just having a good time. And I was always pretty flexible and kind of like gimpy, and so that's it seemed like a better fit for me than to be out in forward or D.
Yeah, and you're probably like, oh, sweet, like goalies, like you don't have to skate that much, and then you find out as you go up the levels, like you're like, dang, like like you have to be the best skater out there.
Yeah, no, yeah, at first you think you kind of just stand there, and that's the classic stereotype, like, oh, your goalie, do you know how to skate? Like, and yeah, yeah, you'll be the first to tell you if you're not a good skater, it's that'll really catch up to you. And I think most goalies that have made it pretty far in their career ended up having a pretty good goalie coach at some point along the way that
Yeah.
emphasized that. Because honestly, if you can't skate, then there just comes a point where you're not going to be able to keep up with the game. It doesn't matter how good your hands are, and how well you can read a play. It's yeah, skating is one of the most underrated parts of the game for goalies for sure.
Yeah, and like I've had all my friends are pretty much, yeah, you just sit in the crease and do nothing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
the amount of practice I put in, like that I skate before and after practice, and like just as them to tell me that you don't skate, like that's like the most underrated part of goaltending is skating, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. It's yeah, it's not the most glamorous part of the job is sitting out there kind of by yourself and doing those skating drills. And it's a lot of times you're going through it, you're just kind of like, this sucks. Like, why am I doing this? But yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things that pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. But like growing up in youth hockey, like what were some of like your fondest memories growing up playing the game you love?
Honestly, when you're that age, it's just, man, it's just you're out there having a good time. I can't tell you, I can hardly tell you how any of those tournaments or any of those games went. I mean, you might remember winning some tournaments, but what you remember is just like just being there with your buddies. You remember, the shinny hockey in the hallways. You remember
Yeah,
like the trips you go on, the restaurants you go to, and it's like, it's and that's what makes us love the game. It's just like you're being there with your best buddies, and you get to play a game, and just it's yeah, it's pretty special looking back and on your career, especially once you get older, once you're college and pro, and it starts getting a lot more serious, and it's more of a business. You look back pretty
yeah.
fondly on those times as like a youth hockey player when you're just out there like having the time of your life. You're not worried about anything. Your parents take you to the game like 45 minutes before, and you just suit up and get ready to go. So
Yeah, and like you don't really remember the outcome of the game, but you just remember like all the hotel time with the boys and just being with the boys, like going to the restaurants, like you said, like those are like the memories that always stick out, especially like going through like youth hockey tournaments and all that.
oh yeah, those are the best, especially being from North Carolina. All our tournaments were the travel tournaments, so we're flying, and pretty much parents would kind of take shifts taking the guys. So you'd always be like, you'd be kind of on your own. You'd be like 10 or 12, and
Yeah.
your parents stay back for the trip, and you're with somebody else's family. So it's kind of, those are kind of special times too. You really get really close to the guys.
Yeah, fun times for sure. But then you went up to the youth hockey ranks in a AAA where you played with the Carolina Junior Hurricanes before going to the Chicago Young Americans 18U. So like what was it like growing up in those organizations, especially since like CYA and I'm sure Carolina Junior Hurricanes are like top tier organizations?
Yeah, it was so when I was going through the Carolina hockey system, the Hurricanes had just moved to Raleigh. They just got there, a couple years before I did. So it's hockey wasn't exactly at the forefront of people's mind. It's more of a college basketball, college football
Yeah.
town, and so it was you know it was interesting because you definitely knew everybody that played. You knew everybody super well because there was just there was only a handful of guys that were good enough to play in the AAA teams every year. So it was you got you got to form some pretty special bonds there. And we're lucky enough to have a lot of the Hurricanes players, like they'd come out to our practices, and Ron Francis is actually the coach of one of my teams because I played with this kid, so got to know him pretty well. And it's like those are the things when you're that young too, you don't realize how cool it is. Like that guy's like what fourth all time in points in the NHL,
Yeah.
and I'm just over there like getting on the ice with them every day, thinking like it's no big deal. And so yeah, the Carolina program was cool. It was very tight knit. I know it's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more, a lot stronger the past couple of years with, especially with the Hurricane success. There's kind of a buzz in Raleigh with hockey now, but yeah, jumping to CYA, that was a big change pace. Like when you get there, it's not just, we've got only a couple teams in the entire Southeast that are AAA. And then when you jump in Chicago, you got Team Illinois, you got CYA, you get the Mission, and there's just a whole slew of teams that are, a bunch of elite players. So the competition just kicks up a notch, and then you start to see guys are like super serious about hockey. Whereas in Raleigh, it's more of a hobby, and up there, it's like those guys are ready to play.
Yeah, and like you were born around here in Chicago. So like did you have like family when you went up there? Did you have to live with a billet?
Yeah, I ended up staying with my aunt and uncle up there, so that was a nice way to fit in. I don't know if I was quite ready to start building that young, like with total strangers. So it was nice to have all my family still back up in Chicago. So I had, tons of family up there, and it was nice to have them come to games, jump around kind of house to house with all the family members. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then that's ultimately why I made the move to Chicago, right? Like I didn't, I wasn't totally ready to go somewhere brand new. I don't think I was quite mature enough for that yet. So that kind of that year between, yeah, my senior year of high school was the year I went up there, and then that kind of got me ready for juniors, because I don't know if I could have jumped straight from, living at home into going to Des Moines, because that was
Yeah.
that was pretty wild, a couple of years. So I think that was a good year, kind of like intermediate year for me.
Yeah, at least you had family up here to make it a little more seem worthy of a like of a transition, not have to
Yeah.
jump into like a billet, like you said, and just to have that familiarity. And then to hop into juniors, you go on to the USHL in Des Moines. So like what was, because you were drafted to Des Moines, so like what was it like to be drafted to Des Moines, the Buccaneers there?
I had it was interesting because I had talked to a decent number of USHL teams, and Des Moines wasn't one of them. That I had talked to, so I had kind of was set on like 4 or 5 teams that told me they were going to draft me, and never heard from Des Moines. And then all of a sudden I get the call from them, hey, you've been drafted here. And I think, when when you're going into juniors, like one of the first things you do is you look up, oh, like how's the rink, how are the fans, stuff like that. And you know so I googled Buccaneer Arena. That place is that's a barn for sure. I think they're building a new rink there actually, so that'll be good for those guys. But yeah, so I'm like, oh, all right, I mean, I guess this is what we're getting into. But no, it ended up being a super cool place, pretty good fans, made some really good buddies there. We weren't the best team by any means. We kind of struggled, but yeah, we had our fair share of fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what was that transition like going from AAA to tier one juniors in the USHL and like adjusting to that junior hockey lifestyle and like being more on your own than you ever were before?
Yeah, man, it was it was a learning curve for sure. I mean, the hockey, like, it's just AAA. I feel like it's just kind of, you're still kids out there, and then
Yeah.
even though you got some 18-year-olds out there, but then when you jump to the juniors, you got some kids that are going on 21, and those are that I feel like that's where the speed. I always think that was like one of the biggest jumps, the AAA to juniors, more so than junior to college or college to pro. I feel like that was such a huge jump because, especially when you get to USHL, everybody can play, everybody can rip the puck, and it's like everything's going a million miles an hour out there. And then you're trying to balance that with the off the ice stuff. You want to, this is your first taste of living on your own. So you know, yeah, there's a lot of good times in juniors. So yeah, it's definitely a balance. And I had awesome billets there, and we had 2 other kids that lived with us. So it was a cool experience. The house got pretty wild, but I mean, I feel like that's the junior experience you're looking for.
Yeah.
You want a couple good roommates, and you want some good billets, and you kind of just want to, like, you want to take advantage of that first time living away from home.
Yeah, you wanna intermingle the two with like having good billets and having like good roommates as well, and just
Yeah.
like you want that junior hockey lifestyle because you don't want it to be boring. You want it to get interesting at times and just do whatever you guys can to like party it up or whatever whatever in juniors.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, and I think those are some of the closest teams you'll be on to juniors, right? Like,
Yeah.
guys aren't, most of the guys are out of high school. You don't have jobs, so it's like, and you don't, and pro guys have families and guys have other things going on. But juniors, like, you go to the rink and then, okay, that was 2 hours. What do I do with the rest of my day? So like, you just find stupid stuff to do with your buddies, and like, we ended up we made like a bowling league one year, and then like guys were golfing every day, and like just a bunch of just being a bunch of knuckleheads doing stupid stuff all the time. So it's I mean, I don't know if it's correlation why we sucked so bad because we had so much fun off the ice, but I mean, going back now, I kind of wish we were a little better, took hockey a little more seriously. But I mean, I still probably wouldn't trade it. Had a great time in Des Moines.
Yeah, might as well get in all the trouble early in your years until like everything gets a lot more serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then like you said, your first year, you guys weren't the greatest. You played 39 games though. So like what was crucial for you to learn and experience during that first year to help you like want it for like going into the next season just to try and get that little bit better and like have like success as a team the following year too.
Yeah, I mean, we got thrown in the fire. We were just as a brand new coach, brand new staff. They pretty much cleaned house. We kept like one or two guys from the previous
Wow.
year and just brought in a bunch of younger guys. So it was I mean, we really tried to, use that year to learn and like kind of create chemistry and build off each other because we knew we were gonna have pretty much the same group the following year. So I mean, obviously expectations going into the season were still like you always wanna be at the top of the league.
Yeah.
So we still had high expectations, but I mean, I don't want to say we thought we were gonna struggle, but I think they kind of used it as almost like a rebuilding year. So it's it's tough to be part of one of those teams when they're trying to set up for the future, and it's you're gonna grind with teams that are full of overagers and stuff like that when you're a bunch of younger guys. So yeah, just yeah, we just thought if we could we could just come together this season. We knew we'd have a pretty solid team next year. So we thought. I mean, I guess it didn't totally go great again, but yeah, I mean that was kind of the thought process there.
Yeah, so like how do you go about it when like the team is struggling, like you face those highs and lows throughout the season, like majority of the season's lows, so like how do you like not get like super down on yourself and just have that motivation to still come and play and just try to get wins.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's game highs and lows. I stand by the fact that I think hockey is like you go through some of the highest highs and then some of the lowest lows like you'll ever experience.
Yeah.
You coming in after big playoff win or something like that. You're through the roof, and then you go into a weekend and you get swept and you get shelled, and it's just like you've never felt worse in your life. So I think it's easy to stay, but it's like crucial to like stay level headed and know in the long run, like, hey, especially your goalie where your numbers are pretty important because a lot of scouts, like if they don't see you, they just look at save percentage, goals against
Yeah.
average. You got to know that, hey, you know what, if you get shelled for 6 and get pulled, like, yeah, your numbers might take a hit for that day, but it's a long run. Like you'll bounce back. I mean, you go back and have a shutout the next night, and you're right back there. So, and USHL, you're also playing for college commitments, so it's that'll keep everybody going. You could be dead last. You could have won 10 games all year, but every game there's going to be tons of scouts in the stands.
Yeah.
So all it takes is you just stand on your head one game. You never know who's watching, right? You never know. You could be in the middle of a huge slump, but then you get a big time school at one game. You stand on your head, then they're interested. They come back, and it's just it's a lot about time. It's a lot about luck, and so that's why you want to make sure you're always dialed in and like because you never know who's there, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't, even if you get shelled for 3 or 4 in the first period, who knows? Somebody might show up late to the game, right? Like, and then you lights out second and third. So
Yeah, and like that's a good mindset to have because especially like when you have the lows of the lows and just like do everything you can to bounce back and just remember that like it's just a game at the end of the day and like you're just
oh yeah,
going for like college commitments to it at that point. Like you just gotta do whatever you can, like just try to stop the puck and just let everything else handle itself.
yeah, for sure. And I it's easier to say now that I've kind of calmed down, but like just I think just like keeping your head out there and like just trying not to show too much emotion is huge. Like a lot of times people are looking at how you're going to react, right? Like,
Yeah.
you let in a crappy goal and, you could back, it's easy for me to say now, but back then I'd probably be, smacking my stick over the post or something like that. But, it's like when you get older and you start realizing that's only going to, snowball and make things worse. And you look across the crease, like when I'm older now, and I see like a goalie give a bad goal or something like that, and you see him get all pissed off, smack their stick on the post or whatever, you're just like, on the other side of things, you're like, all right, this guy's going downhill. Like
Yeah.
he's in trouble now. So it kind of like when you lose your cool like that and start spazzing out, I feel like it almost gives other guys that much more confidence. So that's one thing I've definitely learned over the years is just to try to stay level headed.
Yeah, that's what I've learned too. Because like once you start like going on that like scramble mode, like that's when everything down spirals, and you're like
Oh yeah.
nothing's going right for me right now, and like you're just gonna keep thinking about it. Then like, what do you think's gonna happen? You're gonna get lit up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's manifestation right there, man. Like manifestation can work in opposite directions. You start thinking,
Yeah,
oh crap, like, I hope he doesn't get a shot from here or whatever. And you start just not trying to find the puck through screens and everything's going in. So yeah, it's
yeah, absolutely. But then the following year, you spend another year in the U show where you played 32 games. So like, what was like? You guys had like that like comfortability with the team. Like majority of the team stayed the same. So like, what was it like that year? Just even though like the season didn't turn out how you guys wanted to, but like you still like had the same group and like could build it off for like another year after that.
yeah, I think it ended up being a lot better. We still didn't make playoffs. We were a little better though. Like I think my numbers got a little better, everything like that. And, guys got closer and you started seeing the commitments come in. So that's always nice. Like our first year, we didn't have a whole ton of commitments. And then the next year you're seeing guys get committed and you're seeing, you're seeing some cool things happening. Some buddies that get drafted and stuff like that. So, it's juniors is obviously you want the team success, but juniors it's kind of cool because you get to see all your buddies get individual success,
Yeah.
right? Like when you see somebody get their commitment, it's like yeah, it's just pure joy for them, and all the boys are so happy for them too. So it's like it's that was a pretty special year in that aspect because you just get to see all those things go down. And like I said, I wish we obviously wanted it to go better, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's what I have no idea what our record was that year. All I know is we didn't win it all. So that's pretty much how most years are going to go down
Yeah.
in the books. Where you're either going to remember, hey, we won it that year, or like we made it to the finals or something like that, or we didn't. So um, yeah, it was a cool experience. I love my time in Des Moines. Underrated city, I'll say that. Like I heard I was going to Des Moines. I was like, oh, geez, what a bunch of cornfields, or like, what am I getting into? But no, it's actually underrated. Pretty sick spot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you just even from now, like when you like see like U show games and all that, like the Des Moines crowds, like the atmosphere there is buzzing, and it's just
Oh
like
yeah,
an atmosphere that you want to play in.
yeah. They love it there. There's a good chance if you're in Buck Arena and you're the opposing team, you're gonna get some beer poured on you by some fam that's hammered and just like. So it's it's a fun place to play for. Probably not the best place to go. You got to go in a dingy locker room. There's like
Oh,
there's mold probably all over the walls and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun place to play. That place gets rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the following year, you go into the BCHL for the Albany Valley Bulldogs, where you went 22-22, and you guys made it to the playoffs. Like, what was your experience like in the BC and playing in Albany Valley?
Yeah, it was a cool league, man. It was offensive for sure. I knew that going in. I knew it was going to be, a crazy offensive league, and honestly, maybe not the right decision for for a goalie going into his overage year uncommitted. Like you don't necessarily want to go to, the most offensive league where you're going to get scored on and crapped on. But I mean, it ended up working out for me. But I loved it. Like at that point, I pretty much chose purely based on like I thought that was it'd be such a cool experience. Like I lived on Vancouver Island, got to do a ton of things, got to do a ton of hiking, go on the lake all the time. Like beautiful city. Like it's yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better year there. It was the hockey was awesome. Like it was just but I mean it was pretty much pond hockey out there for a lot of it. I mean it's you got two defensemen joining the rush every time, so it's odd man rushes back and forth. So it's personally I think that's kind of I like to play that kind of hockey. I guess that's probably why I've done decently well on the coast because the coast is pretty run and gun too. So it's a fun style of hockey to play, but it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, but I'm sure BC has some sick views and over in Vancouver
Oh
Island and
yeah.
all that, and like you're just on the lake every day, like you said, and just like enjoying the off time you do get away from the rink is just being outside and enjoying hiking, going in the water, like whatever.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Like that's a spot I definitely want to get back to at some point here. It's that's yeah, pretty cool town. I mean the town's tiny. It's only got like I don't know 20-30,000 people,
Wow.
and they love the Bulldogs there. So it's cool too. I wanted to get kind of that like real junior experience where like Des Moines is still a big city, so like people know who you are, but you're not like little celebrities, kind of like you are in some of those other junior towns. So we definitely got a taste of that. It's good and bad. Good because people love you and they recognize you out in the streets, but also bad because they recognize you out there if you're out there doing something stupid. It's definitely going to come back around to bite you.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you go play in like a run and gun league like the BC. It's like what do you learn going from the USHL to like a super high offensive league when like when defensemen are joining the rush and it's run and gun pretty much.
Yeah, I mean it's I think that was a huge year for my development. It's just like that's where you really learn to read plays, and like I think I developed a lot of my mental side of the game that year. It's in a league like that where they're just so offensive minded. It's a pretty high skill league, and you really got to be able to read things pretty well because there's 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, all kinds of odd man rushes, and those are the ones where if you can get a better read on those, then you'll get over a half second quicker. You'll be able to make some of those saves. Maybe you don't, even if you get the feet or the hands to do it. It's like a lot of it is being able to think the game too. So I think that was a big part of my development up there was being able to kind of see and think the game pretty well.
Yeah, that's a great learning curve and just to experience all that and then your junior career comes to an end and you start a new chapter with college hockey where you committed to play NCAA Division I hockey for Air Force Academy. So like what made you go into the Air Force and like what was that decision like?
And it was tough. They came to visit. They came to watch me play back in Des Moines. I think it was my first year. Um, yeah, I got offered there. I think the end of my first year in Des Moines, and I was just, what, said I don't think the Air Force is for me. I don't know if I can do this whole military thing. It sounds kind of not up my alley. Like it was my first year juniors. I was out there having a good time. I was like, and I kind of want to go to college, want to party, have some fun. And Air Force seems like, pretty much the exact opposite of that. But then fast forward to that last year of juniors, and I had some other offers. but nothing that really like excited me. And then I kind of circled back to Air Force, and I said, you know what, I've kind of matured a little bit, and I ended up reaching back out to them, and then I went on a visit there and just fell in love with places in Colorado Springs, like the base of the Rockies, beautiful area. And you know what, I will say on your official visit there, they do a heck of a job of not showing you what it's actually like. They do a pretty good job of hiding all the crap you got to go through, hiding all the some they pretty much highlight all the awesome stuff. Which don't get me wrong, I love my time there. It's like some of it was the best times of my life and made some of the best friends. But there's also like still a military academy. It's you still grind. So but when you go there on your visit, you've got no idea. All you see is you're blinded by the mountains, and you're blinded by the facilities and everything like that. So
Yeah, and like that's pretty much all schools. They just surround you with all the awesome stuff, and then when you get there and you're like shit, this is what I have to go through now.
yeah,
And like you're there at that time, and you're just like you got to grind it through.
yeah, exactly. Especially a school like Air Force, when you get there, you get thrown right into boot camp for like 6 weeks. So it's it's a nice little welcome to the Air Force Academy. But yeah, it was definitely a grind, but it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, so like what is like the like social life, like hockey life, and then like you're doing like the military stuff as well. Like what is that balance like, especially like when you have like all three things going at once?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely tough. They do a really good job of the coaches there of pretty much like giving you every opportunity for success you can have. Like even on home weekends, they get us all hotel rooms so we don't have to stay on base and like deal with the BS there. So like, if we're going for a game across the country out of east, we're playing Atlantic hockey, so all our games are back out east. If we play Friday, Saturday, we're leaving on Wednesday morning, getting there Wednesday afternoon, staying there Wednesday, practicing Thursday, and then they'd like to get us, instead of the flight out Saturday night, they'd like to get us the flight out like Sunday afternoon, let the boys go out in a different city, have a little fun. So, that's that's definitely a nice thing that Air Force does. The coaches do there. They know that we've kind of got to grind through the academy, so they pretty much do what they can to make it enjoyable for us. But yeah, going back to what you said, I mean it's a huge balance, because not only do you have the D1 hockey commitment, like you're there. Most people go there to, first priority is hockey, but then you get the military, and then on top of that, the school is like top notch. It's super rigorous academically, so that was a bit of transition for me. I wasn't exactly the most academically inclined student in high school, so I mean that had to change pretty quick. Otherwise, because in college, if you're not getting the grades, you're ineligible. You're not playing. So I guess that's about as big of incentive as you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least you found that balance a little bit and like was able to work it into like your schedule. And then you go into year one and year two of college hockey, and you play 18 games total throughout those 2 years. So like what was that adjustment like, and just not being the guy right from the start and just having to work your way up from the from the bottom up to the top, where you were finally able to get that starting job in your junior year?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a transition, right? You go from playing juniors. I think that year in Alberni, I played pretty much most games. Like the coach pretty much gave me free reign. He said if you want to play, you're in. So obviously if you're goal, you're taking as many games as you can. But yeah, it's definitely a transition period for sure. Just having to kind of sit there and wait for your turn. But I think like the biggest part of that is just being a good teammate during those times. Like you don't want to be that guy that's moping around because
Yeah.
because you're not playing. Like because then when it is finally your turn, like guys aren't going to want to play for you. They don't want to. They're not going to be blocking shots, or you're not going to be pumped for playing for a guy that's been a been moping around the past 2 years and being miserable and being kind of a cancer in the locker room. So like I think the biggest thing is just to you know be a great teammate, like be super supportive of the other goalie that's playing, and then just work your bag off in practice. Like, anytime you can take extra shots, get on early, stay on later. Like, a lot of guys don't I like doing that. I love taking I'll take like 50 breakaways after practice. Like, and when you do stuff like that and you play rebound and you take all these extra shots, like guys start to love you. Like, just for things like that. Like, obviously you got to be a good guy in the room, but like when you're willing to do things that are, you know, gonna make your game better, but also are fun for those guys. Like, those guys want to be out there having some fun after practice, sticking around. So like when you're doing that stuff, like it just, guys love it, and then it builds some chemistry and builds some trust. And then like when you do finally get your shot, guys want to play for you, right? Like
Yeah.
they want to go out there and they want to see you succeed. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, is just trying to, you know, it sucks, but just try to be as good of a teammate during that time as you can.
Yeah, the boys will definitely love you a lot more when you're doing all the extra stuff with them and just playing rebound, three puck. Like that's
Yeah,
a fun game for even for goalies. Like any game honestly is fun for goalies, especially like
exactly.
if you're for the team and you want to get better and like help your teammates get better as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, we had a bunch of competitions during that. You chirping guys back and forth. Like, those are some of the best times. It's 10-on-1 and rebound, and then you know you win pretty much. Yeah, I'd say goalies win that game majority of times. You're always chirping, but then when you do lose that one game, you got 10 guys selling in your face. So it's yeah, it's those are some of the best times for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go into your third year at Air Force and you play 43 games, going 23, 15, 5 with a 2.06 goals against average. Like, what was being the guy in that third year like, and just getting like the NCAA Division I college experience with playing a lot of games?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. My coaches and my teammates, like, they just showed so much confidence in me, like right from the get go. I got to play every single game that year, that was awesome. Like, I'd never done that in my career. I never played every single game. So being able to do that was awesome. And it was just like, as a goalie, you want to keep playing, because the more you play, you start to get in that rhythm, and just kind of like when you can find your game like that, and you get off to a decent start and you just keep rolling, it's like, you kind of get in that sweet spot, you get in that the zone kind of, and it's just like, that's just the best feeling. And
Yeah.
just just being able to, college is an easy schedule. Like, you're just playing 2 games a weekend, right? So like all you got to do is play that Friday, Saturday, and you got a whole week to recover and rest up and prepare for the next weekend. So it's a pretty easy schedule on the body. So like, as long as you're doing the right things, like paying attention to pre-scouts and doing all that stuff, like I think college is the game it's a lot easier for goalies to succeed at. I mean, you see it every year in the numbers. You
Yeah.
see some of these stupid numbers that college goalies come out with. You see guys with like 1.5s and like 935 save percentage. So yeah, as long as you know what, it's just a matter of taking your opportunity and running with it. I know you see it all the time. You see guys that come in as, haven't played their first 2 years, and then they take over as a junior, and then they're hot out of the
Yeah.
gate, and it's like, that's what it's all about. It's just, you might only get one chance. So like, you got to really take
Gotta
advantage of
take
it.
it.
Especially if, you're in a class with like, if you got another goalie in your freshman class, and it's yeah, you're battling out every day. So it's just, yeah, it's all about making the most of those chances.
Yeah, and you also that year is where we're an AHA champion as well as like goaltender of the year. It's like, what do those awards mean to you, and like just to go on that championship run?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty special. Like, those championship teams are the teams you remember forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are the teams that, you'll have the boys always coming back, like meeting up, or like big group text or whatever. So like, anytime you can go on a championship run, especially in college, when you're that much closer to the team, it's just so cool. Like, yeah, getting those awards, like, I mean, like you said, the individual awards, I know everybody says it, but it honestly really doesn't even stand up to win those championships. Like, you could be goalie of the year, but your team comes in like third or fourth, and you're still pissed off at the end of the season, right? Like, whereas if you win the championship, and even if you didn't have the best season, like you're still pumped. Like that's the cool part about college is like it's such more of a team game there as opposed to juniors. Guys are looking for their commitments. College is like it's all about winning. So like that's to be able to do at the college level was pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go into your senior year where you play in 32 games, I believe, that year, and like you're on the cusp of playing pro. So like, are you paying attention to like professional teams that are like reaching out, or are you just focused on the season?
Honestly, it's if I was at any other school, I'd probably been more focused on the pro career. But at Air Force, like you the going in, you're not expecting to play pro, right? Like you
Yeah,
got your Air Force commitment. So I honestly wasn't even expecting to be able to play pro after I graduated. So it was pretty easy for me to focus on just hockey and just winning and not worried about a career after that. So I was lucky enough to be able to play. But I didn't find that out until well after the season. So I didn't really have to worry about that too much. So it was just another year of trying to win a championship. We ended up not winning it that year, but I mean, yeah, like I feel like that if you go to a regular school, that can be a tough part. Like especially guys are deciding whether to leave early. Guys are
yeah,
deciding like they're too worried about their career after it, and rather than focusing in on the moment. And I think that's one of the cool parts about the service academy is like guys are so dialed into like the here and now. It makes it pretty fun. Like you can ask any team Air Force plays against or Army for that matter. It's like those are probably some of the hardest games for them just because the boys are just grinding so hard. They care so much about every game. Like, they don't. None of us think we have a career in hockey after we graduate. So it's like just trying to really enjoy and take advantage of every game that we do have.
yeah. So then you finish out your senior year and you go on to play professionally. So like, I'm sure there's a lot of questions about like your military duties, like after like college while also playing pro. So like, how does that all work? And like, I'm sure you do stuff over the summer as well with it being the off season.
Yeah. So I get into programs called the World Class Athlete Program. So it's essentially an Olympic training program. So they'll uh, they'll grant people in the Air Force time to train for Team USA Olympics for their sport. So I was lucky enough to be in that period where the NHL wasn't going to the Olympics. So we had USA Hockey made a case to the Air Force that hey, he's a potential candidate for the Olympic team. So that's kind of how we were able to get the workaround to let me play. So that was it's pretty good timing for me. With I feel bad because everybody wants to see the NHL players in the Olympics, right? Like everybody wants that. Like everybody's like, it makes the Olympics that much better. Meanwhile, on the other side, I'm like silently like, oh, geez, like come on, guys, please don't play this year. Like I want to get a chance to keep playing hockey. Um, so yeah, that actually worked out for me pretty well. But then yeah, like in the summers, off season right now, I've got some Air Force duties, so I'm just you kind of just try to balance it with your training. You just I definitely owe them a heck of a lot. So you got your 5-year service commitment once you're out of the academy. So I'm still working on paying that back, and it does feel pretty cool to be able to
Yeah.
to go and kind of serve your country, and even whatever aspect it may be. I know I'm not kind of really doing to the fullest right now, but at some point when hockey's over, we'll jump back in full time.
Yeah, that's awesome that like you're in that program, like you're able to play pro hockey with it, and like then like when your career is done, like just to go back in the Air Force and do the military and like the Air Force stuff and just serve the country.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had a lot of respect for like all the men and women that are doing it now, and I think a lot of guys are pretty lost after the hockey career. I think luckily I'll have a nice thing to jump onto because that's something I'll be excited about too. I think it'll be it'll be a new challenge and something cool and something I can definitely, look back and be proud of. And I think, yeah, I think all my buddies I've talked to that are in right now, they love it, and they said they wouldn't change going to the academy for anything. So I'm definitely glad that I've got a nice plan for after hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go into the pro hockey world and you sign with South Carolina Stingrays of the coast. So like, how did that come up, and like just be able to sign an ECHL deal at the pro level?
Yeah, man. You know what? I didn't. Like I said, I didn't think I was going to be able to play pro. So I think it was late August when I found out I was going to be able to play. So then, at that point, I'm scrambling. I'm trying to find anywhere. Everybody's got their rosters filled. Like, it's pretty crappy timing for me. But I was able to go to camp with Hershey that year. Go to training camp, and I felt like I did pretty well. So I think they they were affiliated with South Carolina that year. So they said, what, well, they've already got two affiliated goalies, but they kind of kept me around as the third guy. So and I'll take what I can get at this point. It's I could still say I'm playing professional hockey. So I didn't really, honestly, at that point, I didn't know how much longer my pro career is going to last, especially when your coast teams don't carry the biggest roster. So when you're the third goalie, you're pretty much living day to day there. So I was, I was trying to make the most of it. Also, living in Charleston is that's not a bad life either. So being the third goalie there was, if there's ever a place to not to be on a roster but not be playing, I'd say it's Charleston. You definitely have some good times there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I've heard nothing but good things over there, and like the golf game, like you just go
Oh
golfing
yeah.
whenever, and like I'm sure it's a sick place to golf.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the cool parts about pro hockey. A lot of these teams have hookups with different places, so we got a bunch of different courses we could just jump out on anytime. So yeah, that's definitely a perk of playing down in the South.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you would sign with Toledo later in the year. You get traded there. So and Toledo's been a home you call frequently because besides the pandemic year. So you've played there for 3 years now, I believe. So like what makes Toledo such a special place to play, and just to be able to stay with the organization for 3 years now?
Oh man, that place is top notch. Like the facilities, the fans, like we sell out every single game there. I think it's it holds 75, maybe 8,000, and every game's just buzzing. Like the fans love it. That's another one of those towns where you're definitely a local celebrity. It's they're crazy about their hockey there. Like the passion they have for the walleye there is nuts, because it's a town that's not quite big enough to have like you know like an NHL or MLB team, but it's definitely up there in size. So they're rallying around their sports, because it's us and we got a AAA baseball team there, and those are like the things to do. And it's when you get fans like that and you get the facilities, then players are going to come. Like especially in the coast where the difference is so huge between some of the fan bases and some of the facilities. Like it's easy to get some of the top players to go to a place like Toledo, even though you might not be able to golf every day, you might not be in the warm weather like you are in Florida or South Carolina. But like, I mean, just to be able to play in front of those fans and to get treated as well as you get treated like an American League team. Just stuff like that attracts like good players, and then you start winning all those games, and it just kind of builds on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And you went 23-3 that year with Toledo, where you also got first all-star team, or no, all rookie team for the ECHL, and then ECHL best save percentage with a .932. So like what a year to cap off your first year of pro hockey there.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely fun. It was when I came in, I got traded there on Thanksgiving Day actually, and like yeah, so I was getting ready to sit down for Thanksgiving, and I get the call, and they say I got to be on a flight in a couple hours. So I skip Thanksgiving dinner, get on a flight, and it's just I think that was going in a team like that. I think kind of having to prove myself, I think that really helped me, like, to have all the success I had that year is just, I definitely wasn't comfortable going in and like, you got to prove yourself. You're a guy. Like, I don't know, am I going to be here for one game? Am I going to be here for 5 games? I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to send somebody down from Grand Rapids? So, you're kind of on a little bit of a prove it deal. So I think that really helped me get going there. And then, yeah, we were just, man, we were just hot that year. Like the wins just kept coming. It seemed like no matter what we were doing, we couldn't lose. And that was one of those years where, you know, like I said earlier, I was talking about those games you might get shelled in the first period. I can tell you 2 or 3 times that I remember I got scored on 3 times in the first period, and it's like in college hockey, if you get scored on 3 times the first period, it's like that's such a defensive game. You're like, all right, you still want to, but in Atlantic hockey, you're probably going to lose that game. But I remember a couple games would go down 3-0, but it's just like it's such an open game in the ECHL that I know both those games we came back and won. Maybe one game like 5-3, another game 4-3. So it's fun to be a part of a team where like no matter what happens, you're never out of it. So that was a pretty special year.
Yeah, so like what do you learn throughout that year to be successful and like have that like I have something to prove to in the leagues? Like what do you learn, and like how do you like end up proving yourself throughout, obviously through getting wins and everything, but like the process there?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, I kind of worked in silence there. Like I just kind of kept to myself for a little bit, and because I realized that pro hockey's like that's a business for sure. That's not, you don't have the stability you have in college. So you're, like I said, you could be gone after one game. So
Yeah.
I kind of just put my nose to the grindstone until I like really establish myself. I just, first one on the ice, try to stay on there as long as you can. Like we talked about for college, like just gain the guys' respect, like doing whatever you can to gain the guys' respect, because you got some vets that have been there for playing for 10 years, and you're a first year guy with like 2 pro games under his belt. So I kind of kept my mouth shut and tried to work my bag off, and you know what, then it helps when you're winning too. Like when you start winning games, guys are like, okay, you know what, like this guy can play a little bit, and then they want to keep you along. So it's I'd say that year was just a huge mental year for me, like trying not to get discouraged, being the third guy in South Carolina. I think I built a lot of that in college those first 2 years when I wasn't playing. So just kind of using that experience and building off of it, and just waiting for your chance, waiting for your opportunity, and when you get it, you take advantage of it. But then don't let off the gas. Like win a couple games in a row. Don't then that's not the time to start going out on the ice later, getting off early. Like you win 5-6 games in a row, just stick to the process and keep grinding.
Yeah, I love that mindset. It's just it's a grind, but if you keep going at it, working your bag off, like you said, like some good things are gonna happen. Like
Yeah, exactly.
like you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's you got to learn to love the grind, man. You got to learn to
Oh
love
yeah.
it, because when it's over, I know you talk to anybody who's done, they they give anything to get back out there, and like even go out there for practice and have one tease whistle by their ear. Like stuff you think you hate, you're definitely gonna miss.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go into the next year, and that's like the pandemic year. Toledo isn't playing that season due to the pandemic, and you go into the Indy Fuel organization, where you also get 3 AHL call-ups with the Henderson Silver Knights, Hershey Bears, and then you get a lot of some playing time with the Rochester Americans in the A. So like what was that year like, especially like with all the craziness that must have happened?
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy year with the pandemic stuff. I know in India we were taking it pretty seriously. We were getting those sticks stuck up our nose freaking three
Oh
or four
yeah.
times a week. So
Mhm.
that was brutal. But that was a cool experience getting my first call ups, because I felt like during my first year I was like right on the brink of getting a call up. I felt like I was
Yeah.
playing super well, and I was getting some interest, and then the COVID thing happened, and I was just really hoping I didn't miss my chance, because you're just waiting for that opportunity. So I got the call ups to Henderson and Hershey, both of those due to COVID, and then they ended up kind of crazy how things worked out. I go to Henderson, supposed to play a game there. I ended up getting COVID, so I can't end up getting my game up there, and I come back down to Indy. I get to Indy for one day, then get called straight up to Hershey. Then when I get to Hershey, I'm supposed to play because the goalie tested positive for COVID. Turns out it's a false positive, so he ends up playing that night. So it's just like, I'm just like, geez, I can't catch a break right now. But yeah, I finally got up to Rochester and spent a couple months there, and you know, finally got that American League experience. Another another time I was on, we weren't the greatest team, or, but it was definitely a cool experience. It was fun. I was able to get my first American League win up there, and that was a pretty special feeling. You feel like things are kind of falling into place. You feel like you know you're not the top of the top, but you're right up there. And if you can win a game in the American League, you feel like what, hey, if I can play here, like you're on the brink of something pretty special.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you go up to Rochester and you spend a few months there, like you said. So like what are some of the things you learned about the AHL game that you could bring back down to the ECHL when you did go back to Indy?
Yeah, you know what? I learned up there is as hard of a worker as you think you are, there's somebody that's working harder. Like, I coming down in the coast, like I thought I was always like one of the hardest working guys there. I'm always, yeah, oh, man, hey, I'm like one of the last guys in the ice. I get in the weight room after practice, like I do all this stuff. I warm up. You get up there and that's the norm. Like, you get up there, everybody's doing their mobility before practice. Everybody's out there early. Guys are ripping pucks after practice for 30, 45 minutes. So, that's one thing I realize is, what, as hard as you think you do work, there's going to be people out there that are working just as hard, if not harder. So, you try not to pat yourself on the back too much and saying like, just because you might be on a team where you're the hardest working guy on the team, when you go to that next level, it's all those guys are doing the exact same thing you are, probably more. And so it's yeah, that I guess my ego took a little bit of a hit there when I realized that what, maybe I'm not all that special, and like in my work ethic and stuff like this. Not saying I didn't work hard at all, but it's just like that's the norm. So you gotta take that and you gotta even elevate it a little more. So it was cool. It's fun playing with some of those guys too. Like playing with Jack Quinn. He's what, sixth, eighth overall pick, and you could just see just like talent flying from this kid.
Yeah.
And he's played a couple NHL games, got a couple points already, and like it's cool being in that league because you see guys that have either played multiple seasons in NHL or guys that are gonna have super long NHL careers. So it's that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a league where you're like you sometimes get starstruck because you're like, yeah, this guy played in the NHL. He had like a long career in the NHL, or he's gonna have a long career in the NHL. And then like you're facing these guys and like they're coming down on a breakaway on you, and you just gotta do anything you can to stop the puck.
Exactly. And and that's when you realize that, as good as some of these guys are, like you can play with them, right? Like,
Yeah.
it comes down on a breakaway and it's like, it's nothing you haven't seen before. I mean, he just might be a little quicker at it, a little better, but like it's not like, it's not like you got no chance to play with these guys. You're right there with them. A lot of times all it is just the opportunity needs to present itself for you to get there, especially the goalie. Like you're only, if you're in the coast, you're only a couple injuries or,
Yeah.
something away from being in the American League, or like if you're on an NHL deal and you're in the coast, you're only a couple injuries away from, being the backup guy in the NHL. So it's yeah, you're a lot closer than you think at some points.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But then you gain all this experience from like going up to the AHL and going into this year, like you put up big numbers in Toledo, go on a big run. You also get called up 3 times again to Toronto Marlies, Charlotte Checkers, and then the Chicago Wolves. So like what were all those call ups? Because I know the one in Chicago was a bit of a sticky situation where there's like 7 goalies in like a weekend.
Oh man, that was another brutal one. COVID's got something against me. That's another one where I'm supposed to get a couple games in there. I'm supposed to play the games on the weekend, and then I get up there and we're doing our testing just like every day, and I end up popping positive again. Like
Oh,
it's like Jesus, dude,
of course.
how many times is it gonna come back to bite me? But so I ended up just going up to Chicago just to sit in a hotel for a couple weeks and then head back down. So um but yeah, getting up to Charlotte was cool. That's where I kind of, found my game in the American League a little bit. I was able to play uh I was able to play 3 games there back to back to back. So that was pretty cool, and kind of found my groove. Kind of felt like I was playing well, and I had a little bit of success there. So that was cool to see. It was cool to see that you're going against, you're looking down the ice, and those guys have played NHL games. And, you're playing with them, you're beating them some games, you're hanging in there with them. So it's that was fun. Not to mention Charlotte's hour and a half from my home, so it was pretty cool
Yeah.
to have some family and friends out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you just had you find your game in the AHL with Charlotte, and like you go 2-1 there. It's like, what's it like playing back to back to back?
Yeah, it's especially in that league, they asked me if I wanted to play a third one, and it's like, your body's definitely hurting, but I mean, there's no chance you're not playing that game, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's zero chance you're going to go back to the coach and say, yeah, I think I'll take the night off tonight, as a call up, and you never know how many chances you're going to get in the American League, so it's yeah, a 3-3, your body's definitely feeling it. So, but you know what? The coach prepared me well for that. 3-3 is the norm in the coast. We got 4-5s and stuff like that. So it's, your body takes a beating in that league. So I think, you know what? If it prepared me for anything, it prepared me for a good 3-3.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you go back into the coast where you played majority of the games with Toledo, playing 32 games. Then you go on a huge playoff run all the way up to the Kelly Cup Finals. And so, like, what was this season like for you, and like the experience of just going on a deep playoff run that, even though you guys didn't ultimately win the Kelly Cup, but like you just gained that experience that you're looking forward to going into hopefully a big run next season.
Yeah, I mean, like, playoff hockey is a different animal, especially in the coast. Like when you're running 10 forwards and 60, like the regular season games can sometimes, they're not as hard fought, but then when you get into the playoffs, it's just like that's another level.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool experience getting to play so many playoff games too. And it's like you never know how many games you're going to be able to play in your career. So I feel like at that point I was just trying to cherish like every game I'm playing. You know what? Is it some guys wanna go home for the summer, but you're just thinking it's like, man, this is just it's extra hockey. It's more time that you're gonna be able to look back in your career and be thankful that you got to play. So it was cool. That was my first real, like serious playoff experience. Like college hockey, it's pretty much one and done all those games. So here when you're in the 7-game series, that's fun hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you were the backbone of the Walleye throughout that playoff run. So like, how do you go about like every day, every game, every practice, and just give the best you can, especially like when it does get hard on your body, especially since like playoffs is a lot more run and gun, and it's just a lot more like grindy and getting into the gritty.
Yeah, I mean, it's playoffs is definitely more demanding on the body for sure. You're just that much more dialed in, and it's not just physically, like mentally, you're exhausted too. So, I'm always the big proponent on being like the hardest working guy on the ice. But when it came to playoffs, that was we had to kind of dial that back a little bit. The coaches did a good job of, like, hey, like we're gonna get out there for 20 minutes today. We're just gonna feel a couple pucks and then we'll get you off the ice. Like we got to play, 7 games in 10 day or 11, 12 days here. So it's like that's the point where you got to kind of be smart and start to manage things better. Like there's a time for development and getting better, and then there's time to really maximize your performance. So I think especially come playoffs was the time where it was kind of hard for me, but I had to realize like, hey, you know what, you don't need to be out there 30 minutes extra on some of these practices. Like um so for me that was like that was pretty big, just taking care of my body. And then instead of doing all the extra on ice stuff, maybe you spend that extra 30 minutes instead of taking shots here, you're getting an ice bath, you're doing your hip routines, you're doing your recovery, stuff like that. So I think that was huge for me. And then just trying to mentally relax, get away from it a little bit, because like you're so intense for so long during the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
when you get an off day, you just gotta kind of get away from it. You just gotta, like still have fun, still do something fun, like go out and play golf maybe, or go out and like do something to relax, just to not think about hockey that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So like throughout like this playoff run that you go on, like how excited are you to go into next year, especially with this experience of the playoff run?
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's like especially when you get that close, you could taste it, and you just not being able to come away with the Kelly Cup makes you just that much hungrier for it. Like as you're that close the previous year, it just makes you want it that much more this year. So I couldn't be more excited to start going again. I will say I'm going to enjoy these couple months off. We were talking before the podcast. Like I'm a firm believer in just taking a
Yeah.
good chunk of time off right after the season. So I'm going to enjoy that, and then but I know in even a couple weeks I'll be pretty much ready to get back going.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this has been a lot of fun, but I have a few more questions for you before we wrap things up here. So do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to that next level?
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it earlier. It's like just skating such a big part of it. Like, man, I can empathize because it does suck. Like, there's not a lot of guys like are pumped to go out there and do the skating drills, but man, oh man, like it's one of the biggest things. Like, especially when you end up. I've been lucky enough to skate with some NHL goalies and some of those guys, and you could just see it there. Like, man, their skating is just next level. It's just like elite skating. And if you could be a great skater, you could just put yourself in better positions. So just that. And then also, you know what? Everybody says it, but just like have fun. It's a game,
Yeah.
man. Like it's a game, and the more pressure you put on yourself and the more you stress out about it, like you're gonna start playing worse, you're gonna have less fun, you're
Yeah.
you're gonna start resenting hockey. Like at the end of the day, you're playing hockey because you love it. Like there are a million things you could be doing, but you get to play a game. So just enjoy that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I appreciate you sharing that. My next question is the game day routine for Billy Christopoulos?
Game day routine. So usually wake up, get to my morning skate, do a little mobility work, then get on the ice for just a quick 15 minutes out there. Get a quick ice bath after, and then go home. I don't usually eat breakfast before morning skate. I get
Yeah.
home, then eat a nice lunch, take a quick nap, um, get up, eat again. I love to just crush some food on game days. I know a lot of guys don't, but eat again. Usually eat the same meal pregame. Do a couple eggs, sweet potato, some avocado toast, and then head over to the game. I usually some guys are 3 hours before. I'm strictly 2 hours on the dot. Like the latest they say we got to get there, I get there. So I do go 2 hours before. Just like I don't want to spend too much time having to
Yeah.
think about the game, right? Like I don't want to overthink the game. So do that. Listen to my pregame playlist. Same thing. Get dressed the exact same way, and then get out there.
That's a great game day routine. Like whatever works for you, and like it's gonna change for everyone, but whatever works for you works for you.
Oh yeah. It's yeah, everybody's gonna be a little different, but you know what? I you kind of tweak it as you go throughout your
Yeah.
career, and you know what? I think this has been I kind of dialed this one in like my first year pro, and I was like, you know what? This is working for me. I'm gonna stick with this now.
Yeah, absolutely. So like that leads into my next question is like, what's your favorite pump up song? Like what's on the pregame warm up list?
Oh man, it's like it's a hodgepodge, man. I've got everything. I got some oldies, I got some country, I got some rock, I got some techno. You know what? Guys might chirp me, but one of my staples, I got a little Nickelback in there, a little Burn Into the Ground kind of fires me up. It
Oh,
brings me back to what was that, like NHL like 15 or something like
yeah,
that.
something like
NHL
that.
6, this might be earlier than that, but yeah, that one always kind of gets me going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just what like listen to music. Like it doesn't matter if it's just strictly one genre. Like whatever gets you going to get you ready for battle.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, just do whatever makes you happy. I don't like, guys can look at you can look everybody can look at my pregame playlist. I'll probably get chirped for sure. I got like a bunch of random weird stuff in there, but it's what I like and it fires me up, so I'll stick with it.
Absolutely. But my final question for you is was from one of your goalie partners, and he asked who's your favorite goalie partner that you've ever had.
Oh jeez, dude.
I'll tell you who it said it after.
All right. It's had to have been there are a couple guys. It could either be Rome's, could be Fulci, maybe Logan. Oh boy, this is tough. I can't throw any of those guys under the bus. They're all pretty equal. I feel like Fulci might have said that though.
Yeah, Fulci asked that.
It was Fulci, of course. Yeah, that guy's a beauty. I love Fulci. He's the man. He's hopefully he's doing well. A little shout out to him. He's going through he just had hip surgery. So second one, feel bad for the guy, but man, he's one of the biggest beauties I've ever met in my life. You guys all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully his recovery is going well and everything. So Fulci, if you're listening to this, we hope your recovery is going great, and we hope to see you in good condition for next season.
Oh yeah, that kid's gonna light up next year. I can tell you, he's gonna have a monster year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Billy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to following your career the rest of the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
It had no problem.